if your airbox that houses the air filter on your 1.6 HDI engines is really rattling and it drives you crazy, so I'll really show you how take it apart and show you the most common causes that this really rattles and produces noise. There's several really common things that this starts to rattle, and I'll show you how you can do it, so stay tuned. So all the materials that I've used in the description down below of the video, so if you really want to see the different parts that I've used to really quieten this engine down, or at least the airbox, you can find it down below. So in order to get access to the airbox, we need to remove all of these pipes. First of all is that one. It's a simple twist and pull, and then there is a small pin here, so this has to be twisted that direction, and then this comes out. Next is that air pipe, and this tube is caught, so it's on it, so one has to really remove first this pipe. Then there is there is a pin at the back, so one has to push that side until it releases, and then it's a simple kind of pulling it out from there. So there is a small catch here and two pins there on this that is for the air filter. Next, of course, we have to remove the cover for the engine. It's just a simple 4 taps. Basically, just pull it. Next is really remove the air intake pipe from the crankcase breather, from the crankcase breather, from the turbo, and here that connects to the airbox. Of course, this is the muff filter connection, so we have to remove that one as well. So first, the turbo. It's basically a screwdriver. You just unscrew it until it kind of moves freely. Then it's the that bolt. Next is the muff sensor that is connected here. So it's simple. You just unplug it like this with a finger, and of course pull. I'm trying to show it on camera, so basically like that. And then you put it somewhere else. So next thing is to really remove this air pipe. So we've undone the turbo bolt, then we've undone the clamp for the air filter, and then this is the crankcase breather. So that these two plastic kind of taps. So one is here, one underneath. So one has to be careful not to just pull it out, otherwise these kind of start to break. So I generally have a small screwdriver and try to really kind of slightly undo these, and then pull out the turbo slightly, only very slightly, and then again undo these tabs. So to be quite careful with those. So that's nearly out, and then you just basically pull it, and then it should unclick from there, and that's it. So these are the two taps that one has to be quite careful not to break. Well, mine is half broken here, and I think it's half broken there as well. So there is a slight. One has to be careful about those, otherwise it won't hold. So the next thing is to really take out the actual airbox. So you can remove these bolts. I mean, I know my model is 1.6 HDI Peugeot Partner, but some really start here, so you might have to take some of these covers here, but there is space on my car to just pull it out. So basically, in order to take out the airbox, you just kind of put your hand underneath so it's easier, and then you just simply lift it. That's it, two taps. So well, that's the airbox. So now I'll show you what the most let me put it aside. So I'll show you what are the most common features that break and how you can fix those. So here are the two most common failures of these airboxes, why they rattle. So this really slots like that at the back. So there are these two, I'll show one exactly. So these two rubber things that kind of dampen the vibration, so they're kind of rubber underneath. So these really break. So let me show a new one. So this is really a new one of these. It looks like that. So it has a cap at the top. So there's several pins. I'll show the pins that go inside. So this stays like that. It kind of dampens the vibrations. So this is what it was on my car before I bought these new ones and replaced it. So it really there is just a hole, so there is no dampening of any vibrations. It basically just stays there and didn't do anything. So this is really the major, and these are fairly expensive. I have a description in the description down there is a link if you want to buy those, but they're really expensive, and I managed to find really probably, well, the cheapest, but they're quite expensive, these. And this is where these rubber things really stick on. So it's on that pin down here. So if you can see, I'll try to shine. There are really two grooves. So there's a groove here and groove there when this was kind of on the plastic itself. So this eventually will probably disappear. So I mean, I'm not too sure if it can be seen on the camera, but they're really these kind of grooves. There you go. That's a bit more easier. So these are grooves that the plastic has made when it has stayed on there. So this is the first one, and I'm trying to shine. Here is the second one down here. So here's the second one, just a different view. That's the second pin, and mine has really broken. So the plastic pin. So this is the how it should look like a plastic type thing, but on that side really basically broke. There was no pin whatsoever. So what I've really done, and this is quite cool, I mean I can still use it, is basically I drilled a hole with a drill inside and put basically a bolt from both sides, so there is a nut there, so the bolt sticks exactly the same. I'm trying to kind of show it. So the bolt sticks exactly the same, and so I put nuts on top in order for this to really make to imitate kind of what the plastic was there. And it has stayed. I've done this about 2 years and has stayed there without a problem. And this is how this looks like with the nuts. So we have several nuts there in order for this to be fairly the same diameter as the original one, and that's fairly good. So if this gets broken on yours, you can just basically replace it with the bolt that you can drill and put nuts on top. I'll try to really show it how it looks underneath. It looks like that. So this is the actual nut. So really, so basically one can buy those rubber nuts, well, rubber grommets or whatever you want to call it, and just to replace it. So basically I'll push it, and that's how it is. Basically replace it is fairly expensive, but it really dampens the shaking of this airbox. So the next thing is to, well, it's not really to make it quiet. So I have this. What I notice is that when I pull it out, there is a lot of dust around the airbox here, around the edge. And when you squeeze it, it really wasn't making. So there are these tabs here that's supposed to make it really close, but it wasn't, so it was sucking air from around this edge, so it does the warm part of the engine, so it wasn't really good. So what I've done is really just gaffer tape or whatever, tape it just around, so it's really, now it's I'm trying to, now it's really steady and it doesn't really move at all, so it's not really sucking air from the edge there. So it's supposed to suck air from the colder side of the engine, from that side, so from the pipes, not really from the warmer side, from this edge. So I've stuck this so it will be slightly, it won't suck air from there, so it will suck air from the coldest part. Next thing is really, so if you notice there is really a speck there, so that was and here as well, so there is a, like it was rubbing, and this goes like that, this goes like that, and this actually rubs on the EGR valve down here. So I'll show you where it was rubbing on the EGR valve when this grommet wasn't the correct size. So let me show you the two differences. So this is a new one, and it's quite thick at the base, and this is the old one. It's really thin down there, so the actual airbox drops down, and this plastic part actually rubs on the EGR valve. This is the EGR. This is the EGR valve here, and if you can see, there is exactly here on that side. That's where the air filter is actually rubbing on, and I've seen it before. Let me swap hands. I've seen it before where this part actually gets rubbed so much from the air filter that makes a hole inside of the EGR valve. So that's why a proper grommet here, rubber grommet, will stop the air filter really rubbing on the EGR valve. So next thing is, it doesn't really make the airbox quite quiet, but it really it also adds a bit. So the two plastic kind of pins, so the airbox really sits on those, and I'll show where these stand, so this one and that one. So I have a bit of groove here, so it has cut in the metal there, so there is I have to put an O-ring. I'll show what kind of O-ring. So this will eventually cut, and this will also start shaking inside. So these are the two pins, and I'll show it now where this sits. So these two rubber plastics really sit, or they go inside this one and that one. So here are supposed to be these two. Let me move the torch. They're supposed to be these rubber grommets or O-rings, but actually O-rings, slightly special O-rings, not your usual O-rings. But this one has fallen off completely, so that's why one of my plastics is rubbing. So this is plastic, so it's rubbing on it, so it eventually will cut it. So what I've done here, I've put this, I'll show it what it is, this O-ring, and I've put these zip ties, 3 really small zip ties, so it holds it in place. Otherwise, if you just put this grommet from the vibration, this will really, I've already used a couple, and without these zip ties, it really falls through. Here is how this O-ring looks like, and now if I find it, I'll put a link to the description and what exactly it is. So this really goes inside of this, so I can push it on now. So basically you just, so this rubber, so there is a cup there, so this rubber, so I'm trying to really put it with my hand holding the camera with another, so it's a bit difficult. Otherwise 2 hands would be easier. So I really couldn't do it with one arm and with the camera in the other, so I stopped it. So this is how it will fit in. So I'll put a small zip tie here and there, like the same one with 3 zip ties, so it will hold it in place. Otherwise, from the rubbing, this will fall in the engine down there. So these plastics sit on these, so it kind of also dampens the vibration. So this is really a slightly smaller size, but with the zip ties it kind of spreads it apart. So here is my really small zip tie. I think it's 2.5 millimeters. So I'll hook it up in there. Try not to. The camera is in the way, but I'll try to do it with one hand. It's probably a bit difficult to do it with one hand. So zip it just slightly. Basically that's it, zip tie, and then I'll tie it really well, and of course a few more, and then just basically cut it with cutters. Well, basically that's it. I've cut it down there. So two more, one that side and one this side, fairly similar to that one. So yeah, this will hold it in place, it won't move, and it will actually dampen it. And this is the end result with, so this is that one here, and that one I've put this O-ring and put 3 zip ties, so this really has nowhere to go. It will, oh sorry, camera. This really has nowhere to go, and it's pretty tight, so this will really dampen, both will really dampen the shaking, as well as that pin here and that one with a rubber grommet. So next thing is to really fit the airbox, so it has to stay there, so it's a bit of a fiddly thing. What I generally do is, so if you position it inside, I'm not too sure if this is quite visible, so I really first position these pins like holding it backwards, like slightly to the back, and then I'll move it forward, and then basically put this, well, it slides in, so one has to be do kind of several times to make sure that fits kind of alright, and then you move it forward and then click it in place. And this is actually, as you can see, there's no shaking. This really dampens everything, so really kind of smooth and doesn't move at all. I'll push this inside just to make sure the rubber grommets are in there, so everything's really good. So the grommet is down here, and the next grommet is so this is just put it, and this really doesn't shake at all. This is just, it moves, of course it has to move slightly, but these are really dampened, so it doesn't click or anything. This, when you push it, doesn't stay on the EGR valve, so it wouldn't push it. So the next thing is to really put everything back in together. So first do the MAP sensor. You just basically click it, not to forget about the MAP sensor. That's why I want to put it now, otherwise it will throw a few errors here and there. So next is to really fit the air pipe. So it's basically I would like reverse. I would push it first here to click, and then align this, the crankcase breather, and then the turbo as well, and just basically push it until it kind of clicks into place. This is all good, and then tying up two bolts and then putting the other ones. So a few final pipes to put in. So this is the actual tab that locks into this pin here, so basically pushes like that. That's why when you undo it you have to push that side. So this is where the this pipe clips in. Well, this has been slightly misshapen, so it's basically just putting in there, really clicking it in place, putting the pipe on top to clip, and then this one has to be pushed here, and then I generally put a zip tie, so this doesn't really be that, because it's a bit flimsy from taking it in and out. It's a bit becoming flimsy, so I generally put a zip tie there. And the next one is that one, so to basically push it, twist it, and then it slots inside. So it's like that, twist, and then this is it. That's done. Of course, what we need to do is put the lid on top, which is it just goes like that. Well, you have to push the tabs in. But this is it. This really doesn't shake at all now, and let me show it. The airbox doesn't really shake at all. It will be really stable. There will be no rattling. It will perform better with this, so it kind of pulls it tight. And that's it. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Hopefully that's useful to someone. Subscribe, let me know for any comments, or if you have your own ways of dampening this, let me know. It will be really useful. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed that one.